Agreed.
And then you've got one other team that kind of goes against that entire narrative in LAFC, your scarf selection, right? One of the most disappointing MLS sides, right? I thought they had a really decent chance of advancing, or at least winning a game, and they fumbled the bag badly. Your thoughts?
To be honest, I mean, I look back at it and the disappointing result was really the Tunis game. Right? Like I don't think we had much expectations for them to get something out of the game against Chelsea, which they didn't, but again, similar to Seattle, they didn't look out of their depth on the field. They looked competitive. And then they got a result against Flamengo as well in the group. Now you're looking at all of a sudden, they're not in a situation where they're competing to get out of this group, but if you flip their result against Tunis, you're looking at them getting 4 points out of this group and looking a lot more competitive and a lot better. So, I think one game didn't work out for them. And to be honest, it kind of makes sense because I feel like LAFC are at their best when they're playing counterattacking. And I think against Tunis, which is a team that feels like LAFC is better on paper, they're not going to necessarily be able to play that counterattacking style. And I think that kind of hurt them in this case. But had they played better in that game, I think we're talking about a completely different perspective for LAFC here. And maybe some of it is Flamengo kind of having that top spot relatively locked up at that point and could take their foot off the gas a little bit when they got the draw against LAFC. But again, if they get the result against Tunis, it's 4 points in this group and they look a lot better than how they look right now.
The problem for me was they they just looked bad, right? And what I mean by that is after even the Chelsea game where they were very defensively compact and they tried to make it difficult. They went out to Tunis and they didn't play well against Tunis. They couldn't finish chances. They had opportunities. They looked really bad, and it was disappointing because that was the game that would have made the rest of the series matter. And what ended up happening was they come out of this game, a game that they again should have at least gotten a point out of, should have won the game, and they got two shots on target. Right? They had possession of the ball. You mentioned the counterattack game. They were well in possession of the ball. They made lots of passes. You know, the issue was they couldn't put those chances away. They didn't get it, and they didn't get many quality chances. Tunis made it tough on them, and they didn't have the quality to break them down. Right? But what that meant was that they then went into the Flamengo game, and it was meaningless. It had nothing to do. They had lost two games. The other two teams had won. It was over. And that sets up a whole different mindset for what, like you said, what this means for them. You go into a game where it's meaningless. Okay, well, teams are now going to rotate and whatever, and oh yeah, they got a point against Flamengo, but who cares because they were already out anyway, and blah blah blah. If you took 3 points against Tunis like you should have, you have 90 minutes against a good Flamengo side, no doubt, but you have 90 minutes against them where if you win and you win in a certain fashion, maybe you're going on to the next round, right? You give yourself a chance, but they flopped out in a way that was not expected from the group, right? If they had gone from Chelsea, Flamengo, then Tunis, and it was like, okay, they lost, whatever. Okay, I think we would have expected that. But the fact they had Tunis in their lap, and this is not a slight on the Tunis team by any means necessary, but of the three, that was the team they were supposed to take on. And this again goes back to the Sounders thing, like, okay, yeah, we're competing really well with these big European sides, but we're also really close to the tops of other leagues too. And we're going to talk about that in a little bit as well. They did get to leave with $11 million thanks to the draw against Flamengo, but I was disappointed with them, no doubt. I think it was of the three of them, they had the worst relative performance.
I do just want to clarify that I completely agree with you in that they were disappointing and definitely were the most disappointing MLS side. And I think I definitely said that when we talked about this with COC.
Hmm.
So I just feel like I felt like personally I had viewed it as even worse of a performance from them. And then when I kind of look back at it at a kind of broader perspective, it was like if they just played better in this one game, I think we're talking about like this this game kind of decided how their view of Club World Cup was going to be. Had they won it, we'd be talking about them at the minimum of, doing what they needed to do,
Hmm.
being on par. And if they lost it, it was pretty much automatic disappointing.
Yeah, yeah,
So
that's fair.
everything was riding on this game. And like you said, they did not play well. It wasn't like a situation where they played super well and Tunis just, I don't know, their goalkeeper happened to be like playing out of his mind. Like
You
they
were trying to
they
pull a prime goalkeeper out of your head, but you forgot you don't watch soccer, so you couldn't name any of them.
no, I could, but the the name that comes to my mind is Ochoa in the World Cup, and I didn't want to do that.
Prime Brad
But
Guzan
yeah,
in MLS Cup playoffs.
prime Brad Guzan against Lionel Messi. But yeah, I feel like statistically they didn't even deserve to win this game. So
No.
that's the most disappointing part.